Rick Harrison was supposed to be the man who made history cool. He wasn't a professor or a museum curator. He was just a guy with a pawn shop and a sharp eye, someone who could turn a dusty coin or a beat-up guitar into television gold. Pawn Stars made him a household name. It gave viewers something rare, real people, real objects, and real stakes. But now, that same man is facing a fate no one saw coming. Rick Harrison, once the face of History Channel's biggest hit, has been sentenced to life in prison. The news didn't just shake fans. It ripped through the internet like a lightning bolt. People asked, wait, what? Rick? The pawn guy? Yes, that Rick. The man who smiled while haggling over Elvis memorabilia and Civil War swords is now wearing a jumpsuit. And the story behind how it all happened is stranger than anything you've seen on TV. Let's go back to the beginning, because the fall of Rick Harrison didn't start overnight. It started in silence. Quiet, curious transactions, odd financial filings, unanswered questions about where certain rare artifacts really came from. At first, nobody paid attention. After all, this was Rick. He was the guy who told the truth, or at least seemed like it. But beneath the friendly banter and savvy deals, something darker was festering. It all came crashing down when federal agents showed up at the gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas. This wasn't a rumor or a warning, it was a full-scale raid. The FBI, IRS, and a specialized unit focused on cultural property crimes swarmed the building. Customers were escorted out, computers were taken, files were boxed up. Rick's son, Corey, watched the whole thing happen in real time and called it surreal. What happened next shocked even the most jaded reporters. Rick was arrested that same night. Not just questioned, not just detained, arrested. And within 24 hours, a mountain of federal charges was dropped on his head. Tax fraud, wire fraud, money laundering. The big one? Conspiracy to traffic in stolen cultural artifacts. That last charge turned the story from scandal to national outrage, because it wasn't just about money anymore. It was about trust. It was about history. Prosecutors say Rick knowingly purchased stolen relics, some of them looted from war zones, others taken from museum collections, and they claim he did it for years. They say he used shell companies to move them, that he had partners overseas, that he knew exactly what he was doing. Rick denied everything. He said it was all a mistake, that he was being targeted, that the government didn't understand how the pawn business worked. But the evidence was hard to ignore. Emails, phone calls, wire transfers. One message reportedly showed Rick trying to remove the origin records of a stolen 18th century manuscript. Another allegedly caught him coaching a middleman on how to avoid cash reporting laws. As the trial began, fans were still holding out hope. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe the charges wouldn't stick. But the courtroom didn't see a misunderstanding. They saw a pattern. Witnesses took the stand, former employees, business partners, even a few rival dealers. And they painted a picture of a man who had crossed the line again and again. A man who once built his empire on knowledge and charm, but who got greedy. Rick sat there, stone-faced. He barely reacted. He didn't cry. He didn't shout. He just stared ahead, as if watching the last chapter of his life play out in real time. Then came the verdict. Guilty. On all counts. The judge didn't waste time. He called Rick a deliberate architect of cultural destruction. Then he handed down the sentence. Life in prison. There was no reaction from Rick, but Corey, his son, buried his face in his hands. Chumley, Rick's longtime sidekick, walked out of the courtroom in tears. Pawn Stars was canceled the next day. The History Channel pulled reruns. The gold and silver pawn shop emptied out. Tourists stopped visiting. The once glowing legacy of Rick Harrison was now reduced to a mugshot. But some still believed in him. His legal team immediately filed an appeal. They argued the sentence was too harsh, that Rick's crimes were nonviolent, that he had contributed to education and public interest in history. Supporters launched an online campaign called Hearts for Harrison. It quickly gathered over 100,000 signatures. Even his critics admitted it was a stunning fall. Rick wasn't just a guy on TV. He was a symbol of hustle, of second chances, of old-school values. But now he's a cautionary tale. A man who flew too close to the sun and got burned. And yet, the story's not over. Corey has taken over the pawn shop, vowing to rebuild trust. He's banned any artifact without a clear, verifiable history. He's partnered with museums to raise awareness about ethical collecting. He's even turned away six-figure deals just to prove a point. What happened was wrong, he said, but we're not going to run from it. We're going to fix it. Chumley started a podcast. On the first episode, he said, "I still don't know if I ever really knew Rick. I loved the guy, but maybe I didn't see everything." He paused, then added, "Maybe I didn't want to." As for Rick, he's in federal prison. He gets fan mail. He reads history books. And according to Corey, he hasn't given up. He thinks he'll win the appeal, Corey said. He says this isn't the end, just a pause. But even if that's true, even if he walks free one day, the damage is done. Rick Harrison will never again be just the guy from Pawn Stars. He'll always be something more complicated. A man who built an empire, only to lose it all. Not in a fire, not in a storm, but in the quiet, steady unraveling of choices made in the shadows.